Choose Your Own Adventure Twine workshop. So we're going to get started in just a couple minutes, let a couple people come in, and in the meantime, in the chat, I'd like to hear some of your favorite Choose Your Own Adventure type stories or games or any media or entertainment, anything you can think of. I want to see if anybody's familiar with the terms nonlinear storytelling or interactive fiction. So I see somebody mentioned the Telltale games. Those are excellent. I love Telltale. I am a huge fan of The Walking Dead and the Borderlands games. They're just great ways to further immerse yourself in those worlds, other than what you get to see in the video game Borderlands or in the Walking Dead TV show or the graphic novels. What I like about those, hi Bubbles, let's see, I just remember the books from when I was a kid. So maybe you're talking about these books. So I've got several of these Choose Your Own Adventure books. These were first created, I think, in the late 70s, and they were really popular through the 80s and then up to the mid 90s. And basically, these books, these were the first, foray into interactive fiction storytelling. So basically, what they are is they're these novels where when you start to read them, you'll see you have choices at the bottom of the page that will help you advance your story. So this book here is about an abominable snowman, and there are options such as climbing the mountain or going into the woods or trying to escape this monster or how to further find it and whatnot. Another one that I really, really love, I'm a huge fan of, are the Give Yourself Goosebumps books. I adored these books as a kid. They're Goosebumps, so they're creepy, but written for kids, so it's not so bad. These books, this one that I have right here is called Under the Magician's Spell, and basically it's about your character going into a mall and watching this magician who calls you on stage to be their assistant. And it has, like 6 or 7 creepy different endings. They're really, really great books. If you ever see these, I highly recommend them. I've always been a really big fan. So somebody else brought up Netflix has some really cool Choose Your Own Adventure type stories. I think the first one to come out was a couple years ago. It's called Bandersnatch, and it's from Black Mirror. And Netflix did a really, really good job at creating this interactive storytelling where you get to choose the next scene that you'll go into in this movie. More recently, I know there's a TV show called The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. That is also, they made a movie that utilizes this interactive storytelling. Somebody else mentioned board games. Board games are awesome. Board games are never, ever really a linear storytelling tool because there are several different ways to get to multiple endings and multiple scenarios and whatnot. It's especially helpful outside of board games in any role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. I am a huge D&D nerd. Absolutely love the game. That obviously has hundreds of thousands of scenarios that you can get yourself into. So it looks like we'll go ahead and get started now. So the first thing I want to talk about with these is the difference between a linear and a non-linear story. So a linear story is one in which you just told what's going to happen next. So this is pretty much any book you'll read. Harry Potter, for instance. Harry Potter, every time you read those books, Harry's going to get his letter to Hogwarts, he's going to go to Hogwarts, he's going to take his classes, he'll have his quarrels with Voldemort and the Dark Wizards and whatnot, and it'll always end the same exact way. Lots of TV shows run the exact same way. Most movies you'll watch, magazine articles, things like that, are all going to be forms of linear storytelling because there's only one direction in which we can go. Now, a nonlinear story is one that allows you to go in multiple directions, sometimes at once or separately. My favorites, I know we've mentioned a couple, but there are lots of video games that utilize nonlinear storytelling where your character will be forced to make a decision, oftentimes morally ambiguous situations, where it'll completely change what happens next in the game, and it'll completely change the outcome of the game when you get to the end. And these types of games require multiple playthroughs to really experience the whole story. My favorite one is the Witcher series. I know a lot of people have played The Witcher 3. That game, from the very beginning, you're making choices that will completely alter the ending. I think there's like more than 10 different endings to that game. I haven't even experienced all of them. But they're really, really fantastic methods of storytelling. So, what I want to showcase in this workshop is a software called Twine. Twine is an engine that allows its users to create interactive fiction and nonlinear stories in a really, really simple way. Now, it utilizes a couple different coding languages, mainly HTML, and then if you go further, you can use CSS as well as JavaScript. But today we'll really just get into the basics of using Twine and beginning your own story, and I can show you different ways that you can, different sources that'll teach you how to get even further than what we'll learn today. So what we'll do first is I would love to play through a couple of stories. So I'm going to go ahead and share this story with you. It is called Cat Simulator 3000. It's a really cute little game where you play a cat whose job is to terrorize your family. So this is the format of most of these text-based games that we'll see. I'll make this bigger for you so you can see it. So you see here it says, you open one eye, the other, you yawn and stretch. You are wide awake and you are definitely a cat. And so you see here, this highlighted area right here is what's going to allow us to move on to the next piece of the story. You sit up and examine yourself. What do you see? And we have 4 options here. Tangerine colored fur with lighter stripes, sleek glossy black, or slightly wrinkled bare skin with a texture like velvet. I'll take whoever wants to make the first recommendation to go forward in the chat is the one that I will go with. I'll give you 3 seconds to pick one of these options. We want to go tangerine, black cat, or cat without fur. Okay, I'll go ahead and pick one. Let's see. We've got the wrinkled bearskin one. Thank you. So we'll go there. It says, you're a hairless cat. Lovely, you think to yourself. A finer feline was never seen. The door swings open, and a 2-legged creature, much bigger and much less beautiful than you, enters. What is the name that it calls you? I'm going to go ahead and call this cat Faith after my friends that I'm working with today. Okay, who's a good kitty? Faith is such a good kitty. Quite right, you think. I'll be back soon. I'll miss you so much, little kitty cat, so much. You're rather indifferent to her absence, frankly, but it's pleasing to be reminded that your subservients know their place. So it's breakfast time. So she tips some food for you, small crunchy morsels into a bowl for you, and gets ready to leave, and you realize that you're ravenous. So it gives us 3 options here. We can polish the bowl off in one sitting, nibble at it, but save some for later, or leave it for the time being. Again, I'll take whatever the first chat we have here to make our choice. Let's see. Okay, I'll go ahead and pick this one then. So we'll say, it says you're ravenous, so I'll go ahead and polish off the bowl in one sitting. You feel yourself gaining strength, all the better for the pursuit of power, and you get 4+ energy, which we can see over here in our little energy bar on the side. So the human has left, now your real work can begin. Start the countdown. Your human will return at the end of the countdown timer. Today is the day you will remind them that you are the one in control and that it's time to reclaim your territory. Where should we begin? So you can either go into the bedroom, go into the kitchen, go into the bathroom, or just look around the living room. What should we do? I'm thinking that someone says go into the bathroom. Thank you. So from there, we have a few times a day, your human disappears into this room, closing the door behind them. You resent this behavior immensely. So to get back at them, should we drink from the toilet, try to turn the tap on, shred some toilet paper, knock over the waste bin, or pull the bath towels off the towel rail? If we don't want to do any of those, we could take a nap on the bath mat, or we can go back to the living room. Now, what I like about this, shred the toilet paper, classic. So perhaps the greatest of all challenges, you definitely pull the roll of toilet paper from its holder and lying on your back with it scratched in your paws like a hapless predator, begin to tear it to shreds, fragments of it floating around the room, pleasing you. My cat does this all the time, and I can't stand it, so this is a pretty accurate description of a cat's day. Now, what I like about this, if you didn't notice, is this game comes with a little countdown timer right here, and we can presume that when that gets to the bottom, the owner will be home and we won't be able to cause any more mischief. So we can go back here, and what else should we do? What do you think? Someone says, drink from the toilet? Will do. Truly, the white throne takes pride of place in the center of the bathroom for a reason. It is a fount of wisdom, a fount of knowledge, of cool, clear water, unparalleled by your own water bowl. Surely, its preciousness is the only reason your human continually prevents you from drinking of its nectar. You suck from it now, a worthy drinking vessel for one of your high status, and that gives us plus one more energy. Look around the bathroom. So another mechanic this game utilizes is this concept of energy here, which we can presume we need in order to carry out these actions. So from there, let's go ahead and get out of that, and we'll take a nap on the bath mat. You try to continue your mission, but you simply can't keep your eyes open any longer. You find a soft place to curl up, shut your eyes, and take a frankly well-deserved cat nap. You dream of hamsters, you dream of cod, you dream of kittens, you dream of acquiring language. You dream of becoming the face of Microsoft. You dream of the nature of sentience, and then you wake up. You wake refreshed. Time to return to your duties. And after that, we see we have 5 energy, only 24 seconds left here. So let's see, what's the next thing we can do? We could pull the bath towels off the towel rail. You pull the soft bath towels from the heated towel rail. They're much better off on the floor now. You take a moment to knead them and enjoy their texture. And we can keep looking around. We've got 5 seconds left. Really quick, we'll turn the tap on, and it looks like you hear the key in the front door and freeze. Your human's home. She steps into the living room. She's frozen only for a moment in horror before she turns to you and says, "Faith, what have you done?" Unflappable, you wash behind your ears. Then she scoops you up in her arms, kisses you on the head, and coos, "Such a clever kitty, such a clever, bad kitty. Mommy loves you." You're satisfied with the attention and content to rest, at least until next time. And this says here at the end that we destroyed 4 out of a possible 20 objects, and we didn't get the cat nap. We needed 1 cat nap in order to restore our energy. So this is a really simple game that was created in Twine, and I would love to go in and show you how to create one of these yourselves. So if you would like to look this one up yourself to play again later, it's called Cat Simulator 3000. It's by Emma Winston. A quick Google search will let you find it, and it's free to access in your browser. So this here is a bit more technical game called Spunky Spelunky, which is a cave exploration game. Now this game is a lot similar to the Cat Simulator in that it's going to tell us a story that you're going to get to run through. I'll actually make this bigger for you so it's not so stretched out. So in this game, it's going to utilize an inventory, which you can see here on the left side of the screen. So this is your ore count, your driftwood count, and the rungs that you'll collect in the game. I won't go through this one till the end. It can take a long time to get through this one, about 15 minutes, but I will show you a couple of the cool features that it has. So the first thing you'll notice that this game has that the Cat Simulator did not have is this pretty epic illustration that's used throughout the game. Each page has a different drawing with it, and I think that's really, really cool, and it really adds kind of a deeper function to your story, which is great. I'll make this full screen again for you. So your ship touches down on the surface of the tidal planet. You are a galaxy-renowned spelunker, and you've come to this planet in search of strange and valuable ores found in the stalactites that form in the watery caves. A risky and dangerous job, the caves could collapse at any moment, and our only option here is to check the pack. You check your pack: rope, integrity radar, or IR for short, charberry bits, everything one needs to go spelunking. So if we open this first option here, it says integrity radar. This allows us to actually look at this item we have on our wrist. You flip it open and it chirps, displaying sprawling concentrations of ore labeled with numbers correlating with the amount of ore as well as how dangerous the cave is. It's very advanced technology. So what we can see from that is this over here essentially is our IR. This is our radar. So if we continue through the story, it'll have us go further into the cave. Rumor has it, though, that more than just one ore is to be found in these caves, but who cares? When you're ready, we'll enter the cave. The inside of the cave is aglow with the candy-colored bioluminescent stalactites. To your left is a pale pink stalactite with a telltale vein which you harvest. So in harvesting that, you gain 20 ore. Relatively small, but a decent start. Ahead of you, the seemingly endless tunnel looms. Stalactites grow primarily in crowded chambers off the main tunnel. Although this makes the structure of the cave more stable overall, the small chambers are apt to crumble at any moment. The more stalactites and ore are growing in a chamber, the less stable it becomes. You'll have to consult the IR carefully before deciding to venture into any cave. Got it? Got it. The tunnel branches out ahead of you. There is algae growing on the walls. It shouts immature remarks at you as you pass by. Ahead of you, the hall branches right or left. So let's see, which direction should I go? Oops, I lost you there. That is definitely a Tamagotchi. That is correct. Let's see. I haven't seen anything yet. Why can't I? Okay. Let's go left. The tunnel is lined with spongy growths, struggling to keep their economy afloat. There is a chamber to the left with an IR rating of 3. I say we enter that chamber, and when we do, we see that the room is glowing with yellow stalactites. You harvest them and gain 15 ore, and you can take a passageway back to the main cave. Now, this game pretty much continues in this manner for several pages until you get to the end and you find that you're in sort of like an underground temple and you need ore to advance through the temple. Also, this thing here with the rungs is you'll find that there's a ladder and you would have needed to collect more rungs in order to get up that ladder and continue on the story. Like I said, this is a pretty long one and I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. But I thought this was a really creative story that somebody had created. And it's just a good example of what you can do with the Twine program. So with that being said, I would love to go ahead and get into Twinery. So what we're going to do first is we'll go to twinery.org, and I'll show you what this all looks like here. So like I said, Twine is a free platform. It's in its 2nd edition now. I believe this 2nd edition was created just a few years ago, the first being created in 2009. It's free to use for anybody, and it's free to update. It's an open source project. It's really cool, and there are a lot of really cool stories that have been written in this program. So a couple things here to note on the homepage at twinery.org. So over here, you'll see we have a couple different ways we can use it. So the first one up here is to download Twine onto your computer. This is what I would recommend that everybody does when using this. It's possible to use it in the web browser if you just click right here, but that comes with a few issues that can happen with saving. When you play it in the web browser, your story is saved to your local computer, your local network, and every time you open it, it will be there. However, if you clear your computer's cache or delete the history, it's possible that you'll lose your entire story. I've seen it happen, and it's really, really terrible. I hate to see it. Downloading it will save it directly to your computer and is a little bit more reliable in that sense. Downloading to your computer also offers you a couple different options in terms of changing the format of your story, should you want to take it out of its present format of Harlow 2. That's just the addition of Twine that we're using. So what we're going to, so we'll scroll down here and you'll see on the right side here, there's discussion forums. This is people asking questions or asking for advice for their stories. There's a Discord here. You can chat, you can live chat with other people. There's a cookbook here. I'm going to grab that because I would love to go through that later. I think it's really, really important, as well as this wiki. If you scroll down a little farther, you'll see that there are all kinds of stories. You can kind of refresh through them and just look through and play through hundreds and hundreds of different stories that people have created. I would recommend going and checking out a lot of those before getting into your own. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and open Twine. For today's purpose, we'll be using the online, the web browsing platform. But like I said, I do prefer to use the the downloadable content. So we'll go ahead and open up online. And this is the page that you'll see when you first open up Twine. So nothing here at the moment. There are no stories that I've created in this web browser, but it is really simple to just come over to here and click plus story, and this is where you get to enter your title. So today, I think I really like the cat simulator stories, so we'll go ahead and create one of our own today, just to kind of get into the basics of creating Twine. So let's say that this is a story about a cat, and we'll go with Faith again, and we'll call it Faith's Escape. So the objective of this is going to be for Faith to try and escape out of the house that she believes she's being kept prisoner or something like that. We'll get to that. So we'll hit add right here, and that will open up the story creating main page. So one first thing I'd love to get into before we actually start creating these stories is how you can save and load a story into any computer or from the web browser into the downloaded platform and whatnot. Every time you open or close Twine, you should get in the habit of loading and saving your stories. Basically, it's really, really simple. So let's go ahead and save Faith's Escape to my computer right now. So I'll move my head here, and you can see down in the bottom corner here, we have this little arrow next to our title. So what you're going to do is you're going to click that, and you're going to click Publish to File. Really simple, and we can see that it downloaded in our browser down here at the bottom. Now, what you'll go ahead and do is Show in Folder, and you'll be able to see the download folder in which in your computer where your story is saved. Super simple. I'd recommend moving that to a place. I have a folder on my computer called Twine Stories. That's where I move it, and I just double click that or drag it into Twine whenever I'd like to reopen my story. That link can be shared with anybody, and they can open the story from where they are. And you can also use that to allow people to test your story. When it comes to loading stories, what you're going to do is you're going to go back, and from this main page we have here, you're just going to click Import from File. You're going to click Choose File, and you're just going to find wherever it is that you left your story. So first story here, or I had saved that one to my downloads. So Faith's Escape is right here. I can open it, and this is just asking if I'd like to replace it. Obviously, it's fine. Don't replace any, and I just have two of the same story now here. Super, super important. I, in the past, have shared flash drives with students so that they always have access to it. And just keep in mind that the story does not save itself. So at the end of every creating session, you're going to want to make sure that you are resaving this to whatever that folder or location is, and then reloading it every time you'd like to create something. So very important step. That's the first thing I always like to show people when we create these stories. So what we see here is this is a passage. So your story is going to be created in a whole web of these passages in the Twine platform. Really important here is you'll see in this passage, there's this little green, I think it's a little rocket ship. That just signifies that this is going to be where our story starts. This is the starting point of everything. So if we double click that, it'll allow us to edit whatever it's going to say in the first page of our story. Now let's say we can just call this one title passage. Title passage. And we can start it off similarly to the cat story, or if anybody has any suggestions for what they'd like to see in this, go ahead and let me know. How should I how should I start this story? Let's see, I can start by saying, you awaken from the deepest of catnaps. I'm not sure if it's a catnap at that point. I'm not even sure if catnaps is one or two words. You awaken from the deepest of catnaps to find that the large, strange-looking cat that feeds you is nowhere to be found. Okay, so that will start our So yeah, cat wants to escape. Well, we'll definitely get to some options where the cat can't escape. So you waken from the deepest of cat naps to find that the large, strange-looking cat that feeds you is nowhere to be found. This is your chance. Cool. So if we click out of that, what you'll see is that this says title passage now, and you can kind of see some of the text that we've written in there. So to play your story, now I know we don't have much to work off of yet, but note this arrow right here. So what this arrow is going to do is it's going to open up your story in a separate browser page. So you can see this is what people who are playing your game are going to see when they open it up. You awaken from the deepest of cat naps to find the large, strange-looking cat that feeds you is nowhere to be found. This is your chance. Obviously, there's no choices to be made here, but we'll go ahead and add that now. So you can X that out, go back to our story. So let's say we want to have a couple different options for what, actually, let's change this. This is your chance for freedom. That way your audience knows what this chance is. So let's say we can check as a cat, you might not really have as many options as a human. You can't like open doors or anything. So maybe your first option is to check the windows. So you can go check if any windows are open. Go ahead and shoot me some other suggestions. What else might you do if you're this cat and you're looking for your chance to escape? I'll take any suggestions. I'd love to get like 2 or 3 up on here. I'm thinking, scratching the front door is a great option for a cat. Scratch at the front door. Maybe you can see, maybe the doggy door is open. Maybe the doggy door is open. Maybe you can search the room for things to help you get out. Maybe like a stool or something, or like I don't even know what could a cat use to escape. What would my cat would use any means necessary to escape. So search the room for objects to help with escape. Okay, that's probably good enough for our options. So again, when we open this, if we go to our main page here, you'll see that we have all these options now, but there's no really good use if we can't click on them and it doesn't take us farther, right? So what we're going to do is we'll reopen this passage here, and you have to add brackets here. So adding brackets to these options is going to make them into individual links in our story. So I'll go ahead and add a couple there. You want to add open ones at the left part of your sentence and then close them at the right to ensure that it captures the whole link. You have to be really careful with these things because, say I enter a space here, or like I add some like character that I don't want, the computer might not be able to read it. So you want to make sure at the very end of your sentence, you put these brackets, you close them out, and then what we have here is the beginning of our story web. So if we go back to playing the game again, you'll see that these are all now hyperlinks, and they'll allow us to move on to different passages. So what's the first, let's see, which one should I start to go through? Which thread should I follow first? I'm thinking scratch at the front door and maybe check if the windows are open. So we can start at scratch at the front door. So what we'll do here is we'll go back in here and we can start entering the text that'll lead to the next part of this thread in our story. Before I get into that, what I'd like to point out here is this little instruction bit that you get from Twine. It's really useful. So if you have anything in there, it won't show you these instructions, but if you leave it empty, it'll open them up again. There are some really useful tips in here. So you'll see the first few here are for making your text bold or put it in italics or superscript or strike through. These are just to add a little bit of flair to your story, and they're really, really useful. So I might go back through and might want to emphasize that this is my chance at freedom. So I might go ahead and put this in bold and that I did that by adding just two little quotations there. So when I go to open this again, you'll see that this is your chance for freedom is now in bold, and it kind of emphasizes what what Faith is doing to get out of the house. So anyways, we'll go back to scratch at the front door. And I want to show you one other thing in there. I think this is also a really important tidbit that Twine gives you is linking to other passages. I'll give you an example of that so you're not just reading it or listening to me talk about it. But basically, let's say you don't necessarily want this to say something as simple as just scratch at the front door. Maybe you'll say, the objective is to go scratch at the front door, but you want to add a little bit more flair to that. So what you'll do there is maybe you might say like, the front door is usually your best means at escape. And what we can do here is we can add this little arrow. If we add this arrow, this is just showing us that the text we're going to see is the front door is usually your best means of escape, and scratching at the front door is the option you're going to take. So if we close that out, you'll see we can go ahead and hit play there again. So this is what we're going to see. The front door is usually your best means of escape. This makes it a lot nicer than saying something like if you're telling a story, you don't just say exactly what the person or like your character is going to do. They're not just going to do this thing. They're going to do it, and you can use this to add a little flair to whatever action they're taking. I definitely recommend utilizing that over any other skill in this story. So let's go ahead and scratch at the front door. I just want to see if anybody else is talking to me in the chat here. Let's see. Excuse me. So normally when the big cat gets home, Faith darts towards the open door. Why wouldn't today be different? Why wouldn't today be any different? And we can, again, add a little bit of flair there by like adding some italics. And, different. Adding some italics, just making it look a little bit more pleasing when people are reading through your story. So let's say, so you dig your claws into the front door for about 12 minutes. These cats don't know, they have no concept of time, so they're not sure, they don't know if they're being annoying. Getting nowhere, but you dig your claws into the front door for 12 minutes to no avail, unfortunately. What is your next means of escape? And now, I want to be able to go back and utilize some of these other options that I have. So let's see, you sneak past the dog to get past the dog. We can do that. Yeah, so, well, I guess we can assume that there's a dog because there's a doggy door to the house. So we'll say for this option, we'll go ahead and open our bracket because we want to make sure that we're linking this. You see, what's an adjective that a cat might use to describe a dog? You see, I want to say like gross creature. I can't imagine that most cats like dogs. Not all of them. Let's say you see Rover, the other house inhabitant, dreaming away in his doggy bed. And maybe we'll use this as an opportunity to sneak past it. And you see Rover, the vile or the ugly, the ugly and smelly, creature inhabiting your space, because you're the cat, this is your space that it's intruding on. Dreaming away in his doggy bed. So this is the text that somebody might see. So maybe this is your chance to sneak past him. Okay, so again, remember we have the arrow. Sorry, I'll move my head here so you don't just see me. So we'll go back here, and what we'll add here is one of those arrows that I had showed you before, so we can link this to another passage in our story. So thankfully, you don't have to remember all of these passage names. I mean, you can always, if you just close out whatever passage you're working on, you're not gonna lose your place or anything. But you won't have to type out all of these titles. So what we can do here is we'll go to the passage, maybe the doggy door is open. So if you click here, if you just start to type it, if you type M, you'll see that it'll link you straight to maybe the doggy door is open. So go ahead and click that, hit enter, and it'll close your brackets for you. So when we go to play the game, you can see here already that it's linking your first passage to this passage, which then links to this passage. So if we go ahead and start our game again, this is your chance for freedom. So the path that we said is checking the front door. So we're checking the front door. You see your italicized text here, adding a little flair to your story. And then you see what we wrote here before the arrow. That'll take us to the passage in which we might try to get at the doggy door. So is the doggy door open? Somebody tell me. Is the doggy door open? Is this going to work? Probably not. It's probably not going to work. I can't imagine that the owner would just leave the doggy door open like that. So we can go ahead and open this. Yeah, it's closed. I agree. Cats don't bark, so I'm not sure that the cat would just bark at the doggy door. But let's say, again, you scratch at this tiny door to no avail. The big cat didn't leave it open for you. So what might we try next? What's the next? Somebody let me know what the next course of action should be for Faith. How is she going to get out of the house? Sometimes it might be helpful to have in mind a couple of different ending options right off the bat. So we could say before we even go into this, maybe we decided that the doggy door would be open, and maybe you're trying to steer your audience away from going to that immediately, just to have a little bit more fun. Trick the dog into opening the doggy door. We can do that. Okay, we could try and trick Rover. So why don't we go back then to the previous passage where Rover is sleeping. So you look with disdain at the creature that normally exits through this door. Though daft, maybe he can help. Okay, and for this one, now you don't have to have like several different options in each one of these passages to move forward. This one can just be as simple as wake up Rover. So let's just do that. So we'll open it up here. We got our brackets. Wake up Rover. So by clicking out of that, you'll see we have now a new direction in our thread where we can wake up Rover. Excuse me. Okay, so how are we going to trick Rover into doing this? Somebody let me know. Maybe, let's see, maybe you could put a treat in front of the door. Let's see, maybe you can go to the cabinet and grab like a little doggy bacon treat. Yeah, I like the treats idea. So let's say you go to the cupboard that Rover can't normally reach, and using your superior feeling of prowess, you knock down his bag of doggy treats. Now, how might we go from there? Maybe we'll say you drag one. Let's say you drag one over to the front, to the door, to the doggy door. And drag one over the doggy door, but he doesn't seem to wake up. What now? So how are we going to wake up Rover? and get him to open up this doggy door. Maybe pounce on his back. Maybe start meowing. You could do meow. Meow loudly. Maybe, yeah, scratch his face. Scratch at his face. It's not very nice, but it's likely. And maybe we could do one more where we maybe pounce on his back. Okay, now each one of these is probably going to have the same effect. Rover's going to wake up. He's going to go to get the treat, and maybe he'll like run straight into the door. Let's go ahead and open up our new passages here. So as you see, we have now 3 more passages. Meow loudly, scratch his face, or pounce on his back. They're all going to have the same effect. They're all going to succeed in getting the door open for Faith. So let's go ahead and we'll just go ahead and kind of close these to get it, we'll just send it in one direction. So we'll say Rover awakes with a fright and dashes towards his doggy door to nom on his treats. Okay, now, or actually, nom on his treats, and let's see, he wakes with a fright and dashes towards his doggy door, opening it widely, opening it for a moment while nomming on his treats. Cool. Now, let's say if the door's open, the cat can run. So we'll have that be the end to this thread maybe. So we can close that, and then in all of these we can have the same exact. You can just take this right here, all of this. You can copy that. So if somebody makes any one of these 3 choices, it's going to result all in the same ending, which makes it really nice and convenient for you, the storyteller. So if we go back, we can go ahead and play through what we've just created. So you awaken from your cat nap. This is your chance for freedom. So you're going to check the front door. You try for 12 minutes, but it doesn't work. So you see Rover, the gross dog, and you see he's sleeping, and you wake him up. And choosing any one of these is going to take you to this last page of ours. So that's a really, really simple thread right there. That's really easy for me to just read down and not lose any of my place in. A lot of times, though, these Twine webs that we're creating can become absolutely massive. So there's a couple different little user features here that Twine includes for you to make creating these stories a little bit easier. So at first, you can kind of move these around. You can organize them in any way that you'd like. Maybe you want to put all of these over here. That's cool. And then you want to put like all these over here. That's cool too. There are some options down here so that you can kind of rearrange it and look at it in different views. Oh, go back up. Just to, so like this just shows the titles. And then this goes back to the normal viewing mode. A couple other things to mention while we're creating these is sometimes you might have something like, let's go back to one of these other options here. So let's say we're going to go check if the windows are open. So let's say, we'll just make this one really easy. The windows are not open. So maybe we'll go here and we'll open up another link and we'll say something like, let's see, we'll say like, check the back door. I don't know. And you just close this. Where did we go? Well, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to create a broken link for you. There are ways, sometimes you might be creating this and you might here create a link that doesn't actually lead to a passage. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But what you'll see here is you'll see one of these passages and it'll have a little red exclamation point. What you can do also is if you're playing the game or somebody's playing the game and they tell you that it's just not progressing anymore, you can check here in story statistics, and this is just going to show you everything. You got the amount of characters you've written, words, we have 10 passages, 12 different links, and 0 broken links. This is the part that you're looking for, is the broken links. So let's say your story web is absolutely massive, and you can't see any of those little red exclamation points. You can just go here. It might tell you have 2 or 3, and then you can say, oh, okay, now that confirms that there's something broken somewhere. It's going to warrant a little bit closer of a look. Also in here, you have this little quick find option. So again, this is for when you have like hundreds and hundreds of different passages in your story. So I might say, I want to find maybe the doggy door one is open, and this will highlight for me each one of the passages that contain that text or that link to that text. So really, really convenient, really, really easy to work through. Okay, so let's say that's the end of my session. I might want to go in here and remember how to save. You would click publish to file here. That saves it to your computer, and you can put it either in a folder that you've created or in your flash drive, so you can open it elsewhere. As somebody said here from Pop Culture Classroom, some threads are super simple and other times they can be complex. I am not kidding. Some of them can have hundreds of thousands of words and hundreds of different passages. You can really make this story as long or as short with as many endings or scenarios as you'd like. It's a really easy piece of software to get lost in, admittedly. I've worked with students who have created whole masterpieces of stories. They get massive. It is really, really cool. And if you go back into Twinery and you look down at some of these stories we have and just open up any of them, and play them, you'll see that they last for just a long time. I've played ones that have taken me up to an hour to read through, and it's so easy to get lost in it. It's really, really fun. So those are the basics. Those are the things that you need to know just to create the most simple story in Twine. Like I said, there are ways that you can get a lot more involved in it. What I've showed you is just text-based. As you remember in the Spelunky one, there are ways to add images. So anytime you want to mess with some of that stuff, you're going to want to look in either the Twine wiki here or in the cookbook here. So the Twine cookbook is going to have just a whole bunch of different scenarios here for you on the left side. Remember, we're working in Harlow, so if you need to, if you want to use any of these deeper like coding processes, you're just going to look at the Harlow options for it, and this will tell you how to do things like add music to your game, maybe add an inventory like the Spelunking game had. I've seen games that have battle systems, all sorts of things like that. You can have backgrounds and music and just all sorts of different elements in your game. The Twine wiki is also really, really helpful here. It'll have options for you. Again, it'll have more options on like the coding that you can do in the game, but it'll also show you how to use other formats of Twine. The other formats of Twine are a little bit more, they're a little less user-friendly than the Harlow version of Twine 2 that we're using, but they're useful if you really want to create a really in-depth, big story. And if you go even farther down here, there are ways that you can host your Twine story. Like I said, you can either, it's as simple as sharing your story file with somebody, or you can go and you can link it to one of these websites. HEO is probably the most user-friendly one, and also has just hundreds of games that you can play through. So that pretty much ends our Twine tutorial and nonlinear storytelling and interactive fiction. Does anybody have any quick questions before we log out here? Let's see, I can go back to mine if anybody wants me to refer back to the story web. Thanks, Bubbles. I hope you get an opportunity to go try it out. It is a really, really fun platform. I'm actually using it right now for a D&D campaign that I'm writing. And this is a really, really easy way for me to visualize the options that my players in my campaign might take. And I can go in and, I can have all the different scenarios that I think could happen and just follow those and delete the ones that they don't use. Or I can add really easily add scenarios add scenarios that they might get themselves into and whatnot. So yeah, as somebody else mentioned, there are 2 different editions of Twine. They're both very easy to use, and they both rely on a lot of the same concepts. If you ever find yourself stuck anywhere, like I said, definitely recommend trying out the Twine wiki first, and then the cookbook here to find any further coding that you might need. So I think that will conclude our Twine workshop. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. I love this platform. I hope that you all get to really dig into it and have a good time with it. And I appreciate you all for joining me. Thanks so much, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.